Okay, looks like this is going to be the final clip of the game. Let's see how we end things here. Excuse me, but what does the Federation have that's capable of taking on both Metroids and the newly discovered X that isn't Samus herself? Oh no, the AI isn't programmed to joke, it's just following stupid orders. That is not reassuring in the slightest. Interest does not mean capable of containing and eventually controlling. And if they try to capture them, they're just going to take a hell of a lot of casualties and spread this crap to numerous planets at the very least. Now, while I may not agree with Samus calling them heartless abominations, I would certainly say that the risks here very much outweigh the possible benefits. And of course, we're never going to actually be told what the Federation could want with dangerous form-changing monsters. Just like they won't tell us why they want their own personal supply of Metroids after they explicitly had us slaughter all of the ones in the wild. Answer her goddamn question and tell us what they hope to gain other than weapons, because trying to gain weapons that kill and assimilate your own people, soldiers and otherwise, is cartoonish villainy at best. So they're sending a bunch of people who are not immune to the X, who probably have less capable equipment than Samus, to deal with monsters that have Samus's firepower and moveset. But is that Darwin Award material there? Or just... Don't get me wrong, it's interesting for Samus to suddenly learn her most common client organization is not the pure force of good that she expected it to be. But this is not the kind of franchise where political intrigue and government happenings are one of the draws, so I doubt any of the later games are going to get into detail with that sort of thing and follow up here. So they didn't want us to grow too powerful, but they did want us to deal with a bunch of powerful threats on this station. And why send something they didn't want us to get? I'm really getting vibes that one section of the Federation is trying to pull something that the other section either doesn't know about or would not approve of if they knew about it. And that sort of story would probably be done in an especially fun way in something like Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid. It's not that I think that Metroid is incapable of dealing with an interesting story like that, just that I'm pretty sure the biggest reason it took so long for Metroid Dread to come out was because they didn't really know how to follow up on some of the bombshells they threw into the ending of this game. This seriously sounds more like something out of a Halo series entry or something. We are literally trying to stop a flood outbreak here, and as dark as some Nintendo games can be, I don't think they'll really go for that kind of struggle to prevent galactic annihilation on that kind of brink. Right, so the plan is to do the same thing the X tried to do earlier in the game to stop us. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Samus, but you really aren't that different from the monsters you're trying to stop. You just don't have the whole spreading and assimilation thing going on. Right, so it officially looks like there's no way out of this nav room. Guess we're talking to Adam again. Not that he's been especially reasonable here, though still somehow more likable than the Adam from Metroid Other M. I have been referencing that game a lot, considering I don't actually want to record and comment on it. Okay, so calling him Adam stopped the music for a bit there? Okay, so I'm pretty sure that wasn't meant to be funny, but to be fair, the AI being completely baffled by that name being thrown out there, out of the blue, is the most reasonable thing I've seen in this clip so far. So, you're outright telling the AI that's not on your side anymore, that you want to blow the whole station up before the Federation gets here. Which is, this thing is programmed to serve the Federation. The version from Other M? He probably would do so on a goddamn whim, because that guy was a controlling asshole as far as I could tell. I'm not sure how much of this conversation was lost in translation. All I know is that Samus has certainly proven being a persuasive speaker is not among her talents. Where is this going? Oh? You know, the more dialogue Samus is spewing at this stage of the game, the more oddly disconnected I'm feeling, because of some of the odd discrepancies in how I thought she'd respond, and how she is responding to the AI's dialogue. I mean, really? Not once did she ask about the goddamn pirates? True, there'd still be some X left on the planet, and I'm sure someone eventually will be stupid enough to go down there again in the future. Wait, why did the AI go from being obstructive to calling us the galaxy's best hope for survival here? That's kind of a change in tone. And now he's given us advice how to screw over the Federation and ensure the X don't get off the planet. I'm sorry, but something doesn't feel like it adds up here. The game introduces a bit of tension and drama, and then suddenly it solves itself in a way that doesn't feel like Samus had anything to do with the solution. Just because Samus is just as baffled as I am, doesn't mean it's great writing. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the gameplay and the things Fusion introduces to the series, but the actual narrative, especially for the ending, just feels like they threw it in and solved it for the sake of moving on instead of coming up with a real way for our heroine to solve it completely on her own. Well, you won't get any objections from me that we get to blow up another planet and survive the process. Oh, that just felt thrown in for the sake of trying to be clever, and it makes the story for the final section feel just that little bit more stupid to me. Okay, Okay, for some reason we aren't allowed to go back to check for upgrades in other rooms in this sector. For some reason I remembered everything being open as we go for the final stretch. Oh well, it doesn't feel like that big of a deal. I wasn't planning on grabbing absolutely everything before we finish things off anyway. Oddly disappointed we didn't get anything from Samus while we were riding up here. I'm not even sure why. Not that I'm against Samus having internal monologues or talking to the AI, but still, I'm not even sure just what kind of personality I was expecting from Samus here. It just feels like the dialogue she shared with the AI over the past few clips felt like it was there for the sake of giving the AI something to actually bounce off of, rather than making her an actually active part of the conversation, which is odd since she is the main character. Granted, she did say some things that I felt were worth repeating, but the way she talked to him, the way the conversation flowed, especially from her side, just did not feel right to me. And the way the conversation resolved itself felt oddly nonsensical. Okay, so how are we supposed to get to that upgrade? The hell? Definitely putting too much effort into that upgrade than it's worth. Probably should have just moved on from here. Definitely spent far too much ammo to gain nothing, and of course the door to the other side is locked because we don't want the player to do all that much wandering around now. I understand why things were rather linear on our way to the ending, but now that we're in the final push, did they have to railroad things like this when we should have been capable of going anywhere and everywhere with all the upgrades we've got? I might not even have been annoyed by that, since I was planning on heading towards the end of the game with minimal detours anyway, but even as linear as Metroid 2 in all its forms is, you could choose to go to previously explored areas if you wanted to try to find some more upgrades scattered all over the place. But this game literally goes out of its way to prevent you from returning to previous areas when it wants you to do something. Just an odd design decision considering the rest of the franchise. Wait, even the door we absolutely have to get through is locked? Okay, so the only things that seem to have any effect on the SAX are the ice missiles and charged beam. The ice missiles do not keep her in place for long, and I'm not even sure they actually do any damage. And holy shit, despite all of our armor, she can take us down in a goddamn hurry. At least she's not as massive as Ridley was. We have a lot more mobility fighting against the SAX than we did against that bloody dragon. really wish I could find it in me to be unnerved by the lack of enemies on our way to our objective, or the fact that the SAX was waiting right there in case we showed up. But considering the X were planning on destroying the ship with us on board earlier in the game, I'm pretty sure they managed to take quite a lot of thought to patterns that Samus generally has. It's literally just us fighting against a more capable mirror of ourselves. As much as I like that concept, though, I can't help but worrying that much like the good concept with Ridley, they just might play it out so damn often that it becomes tired in its own right as we keep going through the rest of the Metroid franchise. Or at least the parts of it I can manage to record at this point. I'm sure we're causing damage, but it's hard for me to tell just how much damage we've managed to do to the damn thing. Huh. Are we done? Apparently not. I don't really see how that form change can really be called an upgrade, since it's a much larger target for us to shoot. Though I suppose missiles don't have any effect at all against it. Son of a bitch! Of course it had one of those ball forms at the end. I'm pretty sure every boss in this game has had one, and it's downright embarrassing that I forgot about that just as we finished off the second form of the SAX. Granted, it's not as embarrassing as forgetting how to shoot missiles or something that basic, but still, we've had the entire game to get used to that particular gimmick. Though I can't help chuckling at the fact that even at the end, we're having trouble against one SAX, when, in all, Adam said there were 11 and the Metroids took one of them in that explosion earlier in the restricted sector. Why did the game feel the need to mention there were so many of those things, when we only ever see one on screen at a time, even in the major final boss fight against that particular type of foe? Is it just for the sake of making whatever Federation forces that could potentially arrive feel so out of their league that they may as well show up in the cafeteria, naked, with an apple in their mouth instead of in their combat gear? I know we don't have anything in the 2D games to show us how much less capable than Samus the Federation soldiers generally are, but still. Well, we certainly lost a lot less health this time, bringing her down to her knees. Let's see how we can handle the more ugly side of the fight. Is it just me, or did that take fewer charged shots than last time? Really hate how fighting those ball things feels like we're just mindlessly trading shots. Huh. We don't get to absorb the SAX? And we also don't get to go to the nearby charging station or save point. Very odd. Sorry for the save state there. I'm just confused why the game isn't letting us save, even though there is a save point literally just a few doors down here. We don't even have to go that far. According to the rules. footage, I didn't even need to use the save state. I was just being paranoid since the game is doing some odd things to cap things off here. As a side note, considering how much trouble that planet has been for us during Metroid 2 and now due to the events of this game, you'd think it'd have a more interesting name than SR388. And just why is the background music Ridley's theme right now? I'm pretty sure our evac should have its own distinct theme to it. I probably shouldn't have taken that long looking at the map to figure out the shortest route to the ship from here. Well, the speed boost didn't really speed us up all that much, considering the path we have to take. As if I needed more reason to have little to no respect for the ability. And I put down another paranoid save state because the damage to the area is really a little unnerving. Right, of course we had to fight a high-level Metroid in here. Okay, so that was an unwinnable encounter?
2 minutes to destination.
I'm sorry, what? The baby Metroid saving us made a lot more sense than the SAX here. I wouldn't say they completely botched the ending of this game, but it's kind of clear while they had a lot of great ideas for most of the game, they didn't actually know how to finish it. This feels less like they were rushed and more like they just wanted to stick with what they knew worked. Even if this isn't the best fit for this particular ending formula here. Also, can't help noticing that the final few boss fights, the best thing we can do is just run around and send out charge shots. It's not bad, just oddly repetitive for the final batch of epic encounters for the game. Yeah, this Metroid was blatantly designed to just stall us out for a while. Without that timer, it's not like the damn thing feels dangerous as the similarly grown Metroids we faced in both versions of Metroid 2. And now I remember the first time I played through this game, I beat the final boss and lost, because our ship arrived just as the timer hit 0 for me. I'm sorry, but who thought it'd be a good idea to have a boss fight with a timer in the background? Oh, no you don't. You don't get to try to make that asshole of a solution to that obstructive AI feel like anything other than a pure asshole. This is literally trying to explain away our hero winning after the fact instead of leading to the solution happening from the start and just building on that until we get to that ending. Ugh. Well, if they hold investigations, I'm sure they might find some rare survivors of the X, which should lead to us continuing to fight monsters instead of the Federation in future Metroid games. It just feels like a case of someone having a great idea for where the series should go after Super Metroid, and they didn't really have any idea how to follow up on that plotline just after Fusion was made. Hence, the long period of intervals after Fusion was made and before Dread finally arrived. Great! So she just had to introduce something else that makes it seem like our survival in this situation was absolute bullshit. creatures I failed to save in Super Metroid saved our ass here. As if I needed more reason to feel guilty for forgetting to get to them at the end of that game.